The announcement of taking over all of the businesses crushed Kong and his members' hopes, and Kong himself continued to blame the Mount Hua Sect for forgery. Hyunjong brings out the leader of the Finance of Economy Agency, who then explained that they had already sent the account books to the Hua Prefectural Office 2 days ago. Merchants finally realized that they were deceived in a really bad way, and while they were busy climbing the mountain, the government soldiers must have started taking over their businesses back in the market. Hyunjong decided not to go easy on the betrayers, and those who stood there with the pavilion owner Kong received heavier consequences. But the sect owner was kind enough to spare them the cartload of their wealth with them while he gave them permission to retain profits from their businesses. While the merchants continued to go down the mountain to get into the market, the whole group starts to discuss their next move to get forward. Kong doubles down on his statement saying that the account books were indeed forged, which must have been done with the help of the representative of the prefecture. Kong's only focus was to reach Luoyang City to get the help of even greater authorities, but they get intercepted by Chung Myung, who wanted to take away the wealth they were given by the sect leader. Kong instantly tries to take his revenge on the person standing in front of him as he continues to bring out his countless escorts. But none of them were of any use as Chung Myung finishes them off in a blink of an eye with a chain reaction made by his swordplay. Surprisingly, Kong decides to take the matter into his own hands as he flies into midair trying to get the matter in his grasp. Kong didn't underestimate the sight of his opponent and doesn't let his guard down even for once, even when Chung Myung looked like a hunched-back old man before reaching for his sword. But it was like fun and games to Chung Myung, as he didn't even care to react to his opponent's movement seriously. Kong was only getting more furious each time Chung Myung continued to make fun of him for trying his best to damage him. Each hit made by Chung Myung kept on striking Kong's hands like it was touched by wildfire while Chung Myung was heavily bored by him. Eventually, Kong realized to a point that he was no match for the masked man standing in front of him and considers him to be a monster. Chung Myung didn't believe Kong to be a normal inn owner by analyzing his profound skills as he continued to ask him questions about his identity. Finally, Chung Myung loses his patience and depends on his interrogation skills in order to save wasted time and kept on banging the whole body of his opponent to get out the needed intel. Kong was trying his best to hold off Chung Myung's attacks, but he wasn't even close to pointing out their landing spot to dodge them in time. Believing that he could die at that rate, and seeing the killer eyes of Chung Myung, Kong finally reveals his Tai Yi Godly Palm technique that ends up explaining his connection to the Southern Edge sect. Kong felt like he had made a grave mistake, revealing his connection to the Southern Edge sect, and refused to talk any more about his intentions. Chung Myung decides not to look down on the Southern Edge sect, even though there have been tensions between the two of them since long ago. He also doubted Kong's knowledge of the situation, and even if he did, there was no way to verify it that easily. He felt ashamed to witness such a great sect trying to steal the opposition's home along with all of its history with the help of scamming. Kong believed that Mount Hua Sect was on the way to perishing after losing all the traditional techniques from their previous generations, and Chung Myung took his time beating him up even more for stating such cursed words. Since his time back 100 years ago, both sects had countless similarities in their techniques, and Chung Myung offered to show Kong his 24-movement Plum Blossom Sword technique that rained over him like the rainfall of the plum blossom. It was revealed that Chung Myung's inner strength was very lacking due to his vessel change, but he wasn't ready to let the merchants go without making them face any consequences. He was ready to leave them all to go, but under one condition, which was that they will have to get the money from the city of Zhenjiang and bring it under no name. Knowing that they will have to get the carts away from this place to retrieve their beloved goods, none of them had any other option to rely on to save their leftovers. None of them could think of any other ways to get out of Chung Myung's grasp, so they had to do what he commanded him to do so. Chung Myung ran away happily from the spot after getting the cash in his hands as he ran and jumped like hell through the whole mountain. Even though some students continued to discuss the hardship they get to face in their training, Jo Gul was happy to see the sight that everyone practicing and smiling together as it finally felt like an actual group of martial arts practitioners. Previously, they only focused on killing time until the day ended, and they all trained to their full extent, which was only possible for Chung Myung now. Meanwhile, Un-am was deadly focusing on controlling the laborers to get the entire temple of Mount Hua Sect repaired and the food in the whole boarding improved skyrocketing, with the fund managed by Chung Myung's capability. Jo Gul and Jong Yoon both were amazed to see the ability that money granted the Mount Hua Sect, which even brought smiles to the face of everyone's faces. They both wanted to prepare for the future that was going to arrive quickly, along with the new secret martial art techniques that the old books carried with them. They knew that Chung Myung was acting all along when he revealed the treasure to the sect leader, and Jong Yoon wants to be prepared in advance, hoping not to be swept away in the storm of changes that he was bringing. On the other hand, Chung Myung was called inside the residence of the sect leader, as he wanted to offer him some of the wealth that he had found for the sect, but all he asked for was to go to the Tai Hua prefecture whenever he wanted to. When the sect leader refused to do so, he asked for some pills for life, which led to the sect leader granting him his freedom since he didn't have them himself. The wisdom of Chung Myung didn't go unnoticed by the sect leader and his aides. They kind of suspected that he might not be a child in the first place, but the sect leader didn't want them to focus on that forcibly. He believed in nurturing people from the greatest depth of his heart, and he wanted to try his best to support Chung Myung in his future growth, while guiding him with the solution. Un-am revealed to him that they were having issues regarding the steepness of the mountain, while bringing more wood for the construction. He didn't want his aides to feel like he was wasting the spare fund to grow the outlook of the sect just for feeling rich, but he only cared about making the most amends to communicate the new resolutions to the disciples. He also wanted to interpret the newly found techniques as soon as possible to create the foundation for the disciples, without making silly mistakes on the way. Hyun-sang could feel that the technique books were at least 100 years old, which looked like someone rushed through the writing while forming a great scheme. It was like some unknown entity was trying its best to hide itself to help the Mount Hua Sect, while Chung Myung was blabbering madly for not achieving any pill of life in the process. Chung Myung could think of the reason behind it, and he was already in a great deal of pain he was getting for not abiding by the rules of his new vessel. He felt like he might even take half a year to make a complete recovery, but he didn't want to lose even a small ounce of training. Chung Myung was desperate to find a new way to recover, and receiving help from some kind of QI transfer technique was all he could think of. Middle of the night, he came in front of the most dangerous and steep cliff, which was a secret place only known to him. Somewhere on the cliff, he hid the pills of life in his previous life, and to reach the cave, he decided to climb it with the help of a rope tied to a dead tree as he mistook his step while continuing to fall downhill. Chung Myung instantly realized his mistakes for not bringing any life-saving equipment with him, and when he connected to the cliffs with his QI suction technique, the bones inside his hands continued to shatter like glasses. But he still hoped for the best as he could look at the entrance of his hideout. Then the heavy force along with constant momentum led to the rope being torn apart. The weak vessel kept on crumbling as he finally made his way to the entrance of the cave. The madness that he did in his previous life felt like the surprise of a lifetime for him, and the moment he opened the chest that hid the precious snow blossom pills released a rich plum blossom fragrance. As soon as the snow blossom pill melted inside his body, he focused on caging the QI from it, but was unable to do so for the impurities that were mixed in it. By grinding his teeth as hard as possible, Chung Myung threw away everything other than the purest form of QI, which formed the innate pure QI inside him, and the whole cave started shaking with the force that he had to apply continuously. The glowing light of innate energy vanished all the fractures and scars, healed in an instant, as they grew sturdier than they were before, with the young energy inside him. Suddenly, Chung Myung could feel his meridians and heart expanding with the overflowing QI, as his Dantian walls continued to break like some hell that let loose. He tries his best to suppress the QI energy, which makes him remember his late master's words, which led him to a realization that it was best for him to let it be. As a result, he reaches his upper Dantian, where the witnesses the cracked wall of its entrance, while sensing a massive vibration. Chung Myung regretted not listening to his master efficiently in his previous life, But in this new life, he promised to make a change and quickly returned to his human form in the morning. The difference in his strength was noticeable as his meridians expanded and increased his inner strength, which led to his quick improvement. He felt like his death in his previous life had only made him humbler and more knowledgeable, as he highly regarded the teachings of his master, which he considered as nagging before. Chung Myung took the chest of pills with him to help the others, but he was also curious to taste the 100-years-old liquor that he kept hidden inside the cave. While everything inside the sect changed drastically, the memories that he made inside the cave stayed the same, and by leaving the memories of the past, he continued leaping through the air and crossing the mountain with his light body. Meanwhile, the disciple inside the boarding house started to discuss the current weak state of Chung Myung as soon as their special morning training began. The gap that he made in his routine was noticed by everyone present in the training pit, and they started making plans to gang up on him to make a pit stop to all their hardcore training. But it all went to waste when Chung Myung finally reveals his awakened state to everyone looking better than ever. He makes an announcement to everyone stating how sorry he was to neglect their pieces of training, but now that he is feeling better than ever, they will have to go up to the Lotus Mountain Peak and back to make up their amends. Instantly, Jo Gul and Jong Yoon start heading toward Lotus Mountain with great enthusiasm, while the others continued to follow them for the fear of getting punished. Instead of being mad at the disciples, Chung Myung was actually motivated by the courage that made them conspire against him, but he wasn't going to leave them be if they didn't have the strength to back up their claims. Chung Myung believed that the success of an entire sect depends on everyone that belonged to the sect, and when they finally finished the task, all of the disciples laid down on the ground exhausted and wasted, except for Jong Yoon. His strong mentality separated him from the others, but when Chung Myung showed up without any kind of exhaustion in his body while he kept on lifting countless heavy rocks, got them all flabbergasted. When the training ended, everyone that was present in the hall continued to discuss the insanity of Chung Myung, but Jo Gul believed that he must have something made up inside his mind. Soon, everyone was given a pill of life, including Jo Gul, to improve their morale and body at the same time, which led them to great sharpness and strength. Eun-gum was amazed at how Chung Myung was able to bring such change in a short amount of time. Suddenly, the sect leader entered the training pit with worried eyes because of a matter that even left Eun-gum speechless when he opened the martial arts book that was found by Chung Myung. The last page of the book carried a note from the previous sect leader stating that they should continue to teach the equilibrium sword technique as the fundamental of the Mount Hua Sect. While the sect leader considered the words laid out by the ancestors, Eun-gum decided not to think the same, considering the fact that they mustn't have enough time on their hands to make such readjustments. But when he again witnessed the sudden change made by Chung Myung, he wanted to take his words as a piece of advice to make such a drastic change in their future. The sect leader was astonished to listen to Chung Myung, as he only considered the pride of the Mount Hua Sect above everything. He couldn't believe that he was hearing something like that from a child's mouth, and the sect leader ordered Eun-gum to change the fundamental technique to the original one. Not only that, but also, he wanted Eun-gum to make a follow-up through every other aspect of the Mount Hua Sect techniques at the same time. On the other hand, Chung Myung was mad at the incompetent leaders of the Mount Hua Sect, thinking about his future visit to the Hua Prefecture, which might even reveal their additional screw-ups. As some time passes, the Mount Hua Sect was finally at peace, after resolving not only the financial issues, but also the establishment of new techniques to drive its future. However, Chung Myung didn't believe in the same aspect as he asked Jo Gul for his advice for the betterment of the sect's businesses. He revealed that not only the previous employees left when the previous owners lost businesses, but also the sect leaders have worse business sense than any of them. Chung Myung was surprised to find out the harsh reality, as they even continued to run into problems, even when trying to buy items from the merchants. While discussing the tragedy that fell upon them, Jo Gul ends up revealing some crucial information regarding a great merchant named Elder Huang, who was active in the Shanxi province. It seems that the man named Elder Huang was a sponsor of the Mount Hua Sect for a long time, and it is still standing only thanks to him. When Chung Myung wanted to ask for his help, Jogul revealed that he had been bedridden for the past year of his sickness as he stayed unconscious.